Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hope Without Sight with your host, Sailor Cooper. And
your co-host, Tyler Evans.
that's right. This is another episode 36 with Dr. and Katona Linn. We met at Speakers Playhouse, Podcasters Connect and Collaborate in a few events, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So welcome here. So I read your bio. I see that you're a passionate educational coach and leader, and you have dedicated your career to helping schools and communities develop safe and supportive and positive school climates for children and teachers. And you've received multiple awards for your expertise in the classroom management, mental health, and special education. And so let's get started. Tell me about yourself. What got you doing this?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Sailor. I'm excited to be here. So I have my own story of childhood trauma, and my book actually was launched officially on Tuesday, and it's been in the #1 categories across several categories. So it's exciting, and on Amazon. And so I have, the childhood trauma that I suffered. I didn't really understand it until much later in my life. And, it was about my 30s, and I used my degree was in physical therapy, athletic training, and I loved doing that. And I loved working with kids, especially with kids with special needs. And I did a lot of internships in schools and just loved it. And then even as doing some athletic training, I was working a lot in schools. And I just, based on, kind of my own experiences that I didn't really explore yet, I just loved working in schools. And what happened was I went to a retreat and really kind of had this awakening of that, I really struggled a lot more than I thought. I knew I had post-traumatic stress disorder as a kid, but didn't really understand how that really impacted me. And I just really started looking at my trauma that I'd been through. And because I had physical health issues. So that was another piece that really kind of had an impact. And all of those things together, I looked at the trauma. And so I started working with kids with developmental disabilities, and especially with kids with behavior problems, and just really felt like I connected to them. Like I got them, and I felt like I understood what they were going through. And what I realized, I was naturally good at it. I think because of the empathy I had because of my own experiences. And I was, bullied for different reasons as a kid. And, again, struggled really with anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder, and always felt like something was wrong with me. And so I tried to really cover it up on the outside.
Yes.
In my early 30s, I just decided that once I started working with kids and I was working with a behavior analyst, I decided that I wanted to pursue this more, and ended up getting my master's in special education. And a big piece of that was because I wanted to figure myself out, in addition to, because I felt like I was naturally good at it. So I, started working with kids and just really loved it. And like I said, was naturally good at it. I worked a lot in the community with families and children, kids with autism and more severe disabilities. And really focusing on helping them to be more included in regular environments, and, just living a more successful life. And I know that it can be just one little thing that can have such a huge impact on the kids. Like there were things for me that now in hindsight, I could see were really helpful. And so I wanted to kind of make it safe for kids and help the kids and their families be more successful across all environments. And so, in teaching, and I really gravitated towards those kids with emotional behavior disorders, as well as kids with autism. And like I said, more severe disabilities, and helping them just to be included and to live life the way everyone does, and so I that really was the beginning. And the last 25 ish, 30 years, I guess it's been now, that I've been working with kids and their families and schools. And the last actually 20 years, especially, I've been working in schools because, as I was teaching and working in schools, I realized that a lot of teachers don't get a whole lot of training on some of these things,
because we do need inclusivity, because Tyler, she can relate to you. Tell her your story of how they wanted to put you in resource classes and all that. Take it away, sir.
Yeah. So basically, when I was young, they wanted me in resource classes because they didn't know how to teach me. And so my mom, what she did, she went to workshops with this advocacy group. I'm not exactly sure the name of it, but basically they educated her on the fact that I can be in regular classes because the only disability I had was blindness.
Wow.
Me too.
And that was
Me
it.
too. Yeah, me too.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I worked a lot with even people with cerebral palsy. And that's another kind of thing. It just because they may have severe disabilities, that doesn't mean that they aren't smart, and their brain is, it's just that they can't communicate. It can't get out of their body. And so,
Right.
some of those things are,
I find that
it breaks my heart.
I find that the school systems underestimate for no reason a lot of times. It's not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, part of it is, and I found that out is a lot of teachers they want to help, but they don't necessarily have the tools. So that's kind of why I train teachers and I help the school leaders, because, and I continue to advocate for youth and families, because not only do I have my own experiences, I'm also a family member. We have lots of different things that our family members have. And I want to be an advocate. And so, that it's teachers have a lot of, and school leaders they didn't get into this job because of the money, obviously. And so, they lack often the tools. So that's kind of why I committed so much of my career to really focusing on training them and helping them to feel safe. Because a lot of times people get into the field because they may have struggles of their own and they want to help, but they didn't necessarily have the tools. So
And
that's
as part of making schools safe, do you also help to prevent bullying and all that?
Yep, absolutely. That is 100. And as I mentioned earlier, I was bullied in a variety of different ways. And I talk about some of those in different books. When I was in fourth grade, I was taller, and I was very athletic, and I was pretty. And there were 8th grade boys who they gave me a nickname, Skin. Didn't know what it meant, and I didn't understand it really. I just knew the way they looked at me and the way they just talked to me and just said the word, I just felt like dirty. And so, to me, I mean, that was really sexual harassment. But, other ways I was bullied, when I first got to high school. There were senior girls who just, would follow me, and they, again, I was tall for my age, and they gave me just nasty looks, and they threatened me. And, they told me to stay away from this one guy who was interested in me, who happened to be a boyfriend of one of these seniors. And, I had no control over it, but I was the target of that. So, those were just some examples. Even as an adult, I've been bullied. We can be excluded from things, when we feel like someone is pushing us out, or other people are talking about us, and kind of getting others to join in on talking about someone that,
yes.
really is bullying. It's exclusion, and a lot of, they call it like the mean girls. That's definitely been something. someone is intimidated by you and they talk about you behind your back and try to get others to be against you, that's bullying.
Yeah, for sure. That's not good. It's like
Yeah.
that's gossiping. It's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens a lot more than we realize. I think that, again, a lot of people, one of the things that I always say is hurt people hurt people. So when you've been through your own pain and you don't really deal with that, you're more likely to injure others, even if you don't realize that that's what's happening.
And also, like, if you don't mind me asking, like, what in
Oh,
your upbringing or what?
I lost your mic for just a quick second.
Hello?
Just repeat your question. Yeah. I can hear you now, but just repeat
Yeah.
your question again. Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, what caused your childhood trauma? Like, was it just a dysfunctional upbringing, or like what was
Yeah.
it?
I do go into detail in the book, but I actually, the one specific thing was a car accident. So
Yeah.
I was in a car accident and I went through the windshield with my face and had lots of damage to my face. I was 4 years old. At the time, they wouldn't allow families to stay with kids in the hospital. This was the policy of the hospital. So I was in the hospital for a week without my family. They were only allowed to visit for 2 hours a day for visiting hours. And then they would drive us around in this little red wagon to distract us so that our families could sneak out. And so that further, the hospital
Of
system
course.
further traumatized me. Then when I got home, it was 1970. We didn't talk about stuff. It was, let's not talk about it. If it doesn't come up, it'll go away. And that doesn't
No.
happen.
We have to
So-
talk. We have to talk about it, because there's a saying now: talk saves lives.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of my mission, is that I'm always about, I want to make it safe for people to be able to talk and share who they are, and not just, as a way to kind of be, oh, woe is me. It's okay. Let's talk about it so we can then figure out, what are your gifts? What are your specialties? What are your strengths? How can we use those? How can we take what you've been through and make it your message and make it a positive? So it's, for me, my mess is my message. So
Yeah, your message, your message. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, wow. And I imagine you also, well, I don't like what's going on in the schools, is all the school shootings that are happening. Are you helping to prevent further of those tragedies?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a state project director for Safe Schools, Healthy Students, and that came out of the Sandy Hook and the Columbine shooting. So it was a big federal grant that came out of the Sandy Hook and Columbine shootings. Pennsylvania received that, and I was the state project director for that. And what we, one of the big things, we had permission to really go across systems and all work together. But the big focus of that was to do prevention rather than waiting until things happen. Let's look at, okay, what are all the signs and signals, and how can we promote a more positive environment so that we're preventing some of these, we want to prevent bullying and school violence and suicide and other mental health crises. So we have to, it's easier to prevent things rather than waiting until they're happening. They're harder to deal with. And then COVID kind of added to that,
Oh, yes.
So yeah, that's a big, so when the state grant ended, I basically wanted to continue doing that work. I focus more on schools and districts rather than kind of working at the larger state level. I really focus on getting into the buildings and really working with the stakeholders where they are and helping it to fit. It's not a cookie cutter approach. It's about, how can we make sure it fits what the strengths and needs are and the opportunities of that environment, that community. So
for sure, yes. And let's see, also, so you're helping prevent school shootings, suicide, which is great, because this stuff has happened too many times. You see, I know you heard about the shooting that we had in Uvalde last year.
Yes.
Not good.
It just is, it's heartbreaking. And one of the key things is that everybody has to work together. One
Yes.
of my biggest frustrations is that everybody works in silos. And so we're not able to really do the best we can. We waste a lot of time and energy and money. And, it's become political, but really, if we all work together and really get on the ground and kind of look at what can we do rather than just admiring the problem or leaving it to politicians to kind of put things in place, it's what's going to happen that we can, it needs to be grassroots. And so that's really what I love to do, is help kind of those grassroots changes happen.
For sure. Yes, definitely. For sure. And you're doing great work. And so I don't believe I have any more questions for you except one. Have you worked with blind students at all or not really?
I haven't, not
yet.
I've worked more in multiple disability classrooms.
Yeah.
So with more of a variety of things. And so, when I work in those environments, again, I really, because I'm a behavior analyst and because of my trauma, actually, my trauma made me a good observer, and not just observer with my eyes. I'm really in tune to picking up on subtle things that maybe other people may not. And so for me, that helps me to look at, no matter what the disability is and no matter what the exceptionality is, I like calling them exceptionalities, because they're not, it's not a disability per se, in that you have so many other strengths that really can counteract anything that we're struggling with. How can we look at those things that we're really good at? So for me, that I love being able to look at and problem solve. So no matter what the situation is, I've and the kids that I've worked with in the past, or the adults, let's look at whatever it is. And if there's not a solution, let's think outside of the box. Like, let's not get stuck on, these are the things that are available. Let's create stuff. Let's make it more, let's find a problem.
Indeed.
Not just like, oh, well, here's the solution. No, let's create the solution to the problem. We have to think outside of the box. And I think that's one of my specialties, is that I am an out of the box thinker, and help schools to really look at things in ways that they may have not, and not just schools, communities, because I really focus on working with schools, communities, and all of the stakeholders, and especially youth. Like, we need to get kids and adults, whoever they are, we need to hear their voices more, and they need to guide what we do rather than just telling them what we're going to do for them.
For sure.
Self-determination, huge.
Yes, huge. And I've always had self-determination.
Yeah.
And so, last but not least, what is your book called, and where can people find it?
It is Shedding Lies, Living Beyond Childhood Trauma, and it is on Amazon. And I can share the link with you on your Facebook post if you want. But yeah, and also you could go to my website, www.katonalinnconsulting.com. And I have a few other podcasts that I've done. And I have another book that I did. I did a book, Depression Lied to Me. Well, I have a chapter in a book. And then I have another book that will be coming out, a podcast I did in December, just came out yesterday. And it talks more about kind of the abuse that I experienced, the one I mentioned earlier, like that sexual abuse kind of thing, and how that impacts not just that sexual, but, different ways that you're bullied in environments and abused that are kind of part of our culture. And so anyway, those are all on my website, and more things to come. So you can sign up for my email list, and I have some freebies on my website as well. And but Amazon, my book, Shedding Lies, Living Beyond Childhood Trauma, is available. If
you could put all this in the chat so I could put in the show notes, that'd be great.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, all right. And so, Tyler, do you have any other questions for our guests? Because if not, we can wrap up with our customary ending. So it's all yours.
I don't think I do. I feel that your story is pretty inspirational. I feel that all of us have an inspirational story to tell. The fact that we are even alive is inspirational. So,
Yeah. Thanks.
Sure.
And we need to, again, we have to make sure to remember that, I always thought my story didn't matter. Like it wasn't big enough. And no matter what, if one person is influenced by our story, we need to share it. So
that's right.
to me, we
Yes, we
all,
do.
you're right. We all need to share our stories and we all need to get them out there. So Sailor, thank you so much for what you guys are doing. I
Yeah.
love it. And I'm just really honored and happy to be on your podcast. So thank you so much.
I'm just
I
not,
shared all the info in the chat. So.
I'm just not doing podcasts. I'm going to be speaking as well. I'm sure you heard of Frank King. I'm working with him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, Tyler, please do a customary ending for us.
Okay. So, what do you say to those who feel they have no hope right now, but like they don't know where to go?
Yeah. Like I said, my book, definitely, I really try to get across that there is hope no matter what. And that one of the things we have to shift is, what are the lies that we tell ourselves? We tell ourselves a story and we say, mine was something's wrong with me. I'm not worthy. I tried to hide it, but that was really what was the core of what was going on. And I had to look at what was the truth. And the truth were that I had people that love me. I can't look at every little negative thing that, if people are saying about me. I had to kind of really hang on to those people and keep safe people around me. Who are those people that support you? Who are those people that love you and care about you unconditionally? And keep those people around you and don't let the lies from others and that we tell ourselves, don't let them overtake those things that, the people that love us. So there's always hope in that. If there's not a solution, we've got to look for it. We've got to keep looking. Don't give up. And there are a lot of us out there. It's just connect with people who have like-minded inspiration for you. So
because we all matter. You matter.
Absolutely. Yes. 100%.
That's right.
Wow. Dr. Katona Linn, thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great.
Yeah. Stay blessed, everybody. We hope you feel renewed, inspired, and encouraged, like you can just carry on and conquer the world.
Please hit the subscribe button on all platforms and tell your friends and family to do the same.
Blessings to all.